Hi, I'm Nisha DeGaring, host of Good Things Utah, and I've been a longtime supporter of Todd's Beliefcast. I hope you find inspiration in the courageous stories shared by the amazing people Todd features on his show. The guests serve as shoulders for us to stand on, allowing us to see a little further and cultivate belief in oneself. Remember, you have the dignity and power to change. I encourage you to keep striving and believing in yourself. Enjoy today's podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Today on the Beliefcast, I am honored to sit down with a true visionary, Bishop Kevin Foreman. Bishop, thank you for being here with us today.
Listen, thank you for having me. Excited to be with you.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, guys. You guys are going to love him. He's not just a pastor, but he's a cultural architect, entrepreneur, and an author who is reshaping what leadership and faith look like in today's world. As a leader of Harvest Church, one of America's most diverse and dynamic communities, Bishop Foreman reaches people across the globe with his bold and practical teachings. His book, Evolutionaries, challenges us to rise beyond survival and step into transformation, to evolve into who we were created to be. For over 2 decades, he's been equipping people to grow through adversity, embrace change, and lead with purpose. Bishop, like I said, it's an honor to be here. I'm the host, Todd Sylvester, and I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I love you guys for your continued support, and you guys are in for a good one today. So yeah, again, thanks for being here, and tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us where you grew up. Tell us a little about your family.
Listen, we were just talking about it. I am that photo right there. When I didn't have the shark fin, I'd strap that thing on and make it happen.
Yes.
But again, glad to be with you today. They call me the People's Bishop because I love people that I lead. For those not familiar with that terminology, a bishop is essentially just a pastor to pastors. And so I got really early on in life. The joke is I came out of my mom's room with a Bible and a briefcase. I just had this affinity towards spiritual things and affinity towards business. I just always saw those two things converging. And then later on, I would discover that, it's a spiritual principle. There's a Bible verse, Revelation 5:10 says that we're kings and priests, that two different realms are in one individual. And that's true for everybody. And so it's not either or, it's both and. And so I really approach life through that lens, that it's both and for me. Born in Denver, raised in Memphis, in the inner city area. The area is actually called Orange Mound. And immediately post Reconstruction in America, it was one of the bustling, very prosperous, one of the several they call them Black Wall Streets. In America. Over time, that area, through a variety of reasons and factors, began to deteriorate. And so as a kid, I saw a lot of what I didn't want to be. I saw a lot of people with great talent, great potential, but didn't do anything with it and got caught up into other things. And so I just had, again, back to the Bible and briefcase, I was a little kid wanting to watch preaching on TV. There was a preacher who used to come on Friday nights, Dr. Frederick K.C. Price. He was out of California. He would come on Friday nights, and his song starts like evidence, doom, 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 doom. As a kid, I thought they were saying Bennigan's, the restaurant. So, I wasn't. It wasn't until years later. I think I was in my late teens. I finally picked up. I was like, wait a minute, they're not saying Bennigan's. They're saying evidence.
No,
just
I
one of
love
those
that.
things. Yeah.
Well, I love that. So obviously, you're a man of faith and you wear your faith on your sleeve. And I want you to know, I really admire that. I admire that you really just live your true, authentic self in that way. It sounds like obviously early on, you had an upbringing around, faith in the Bible. Will you talk about that and where that influence came from?
Yeah, it really did. So interestingly enough, I'm the first pastor in my bloodline, in my family. It was just really this affinity. It was this intrinsic thing that was in me where I just was drawn. Now, of course, my family was heavily involved in church, and we sort of like to say it was Baptist, a little bit of mixture of everything, and so that was something that was there. But I really it went to a next level for me. It was just this thing that there was this drawing, and I think it really early on began to identify part of what my assignment in life was going to be. I think the context clues are always around us of who we are supposed to be. And when we align, I love your line, change your beliefs, change your life. When we align with that, it really makes it so that life is purposeful and not just managing misery or just living in pain or constantly trying to figure out what it is. I just looked at the clues and I was like, okay, all of this stuff is in alignment. And so maybe this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, I love that. I know one of the things you live by is you help people, rise above just surviving
Yeah.
and living in transformation.
Yeah.
I really like that. And I think for those listening may not fully understand what that means. So will you kind of explain what it looks like for a person to just survive, and then someone who's really in that transformation?
The best example is a butterfly. Love the life cycle of a butterfly. 4 stages. Starts as small as a sesame seed on a sesame seed bun. Stage 2, it grows to 100 times its size, right? It becomes what we're familiar with, the caterpillar. Stage 3, something crazy happens. It is either buried underground or behind a leaf in a chrysalis, isolated by itself. And in that isolation period, it's developing things it didn't need in stage 2. And I think every level up in life comes with an isolation. Every
Right.
level up in life comes with this chrysalis moment where you're locked in and you're like, okay, am I the only one going through this? Am I the only one dealing with this? And that's where the difference between surviving and thriving really come in. The survival mentality says, I just want to maintain this cocoon, maintain this chrysalis, and let's see if I can go back to who I used to be because I was so happy in stage 2. The thriving mindset says, let me maximize everything going on in stage 3. Because guess what? I'm developing wings. I didn't have those in stage 2. I'm developing these new things that are happening in stage 3. And I don't quite know what they're for yet. But if I decide to be a person that thrives, I will eventually bust out of that cocoon into stage 4, where now the thing is flying. And that's why I wrote that book, Evolutionaries, because revolutions change, but it doesn't always mean for the better. In fact, a revolution could be a circle. Evolution is always progressive change. You can never go back to who you used to be.
Wow. I love that. I've heard it once said, and I'm going to butcher this maybe a little bit, but once your mind's been stretched by a new idea, it can never go back to its original dimensions.
Yeah, love
right?
that. Love that.
And
So true.
and basically it's what you're saying. And I really agree with that. And again, like I said, I've really, studied you recently quite a bit, and I'm so impressed with all that you do. I mean, you're a singer, you're an author. I think you've written 5 books.
Yeah.
If I'm right. I mean, obviously you run this amazing church, and you are inviting all and inspiring so many people. Where do you get the energy to do all of that? I mean, where does that come from? And again, I'm sure it falls back on your faith and belief that all things are, possible through God and Christ.
Yeah. It really does. And, my energy, people always say that my energy is, I'm generally always this way. And like people said, do you ever like turn off? I was like, I just have an on button. I don't know what the off button is. Even my my lows generally are higher. And I've taken that, to really view that as my superpower. And I think everybody's got a superpower. Your superpower is often the thing that is misunderstood by others, but if properly managed by you, it gives you an advantage. And so for me, I have always had this relentless desire to push forward, this relentless desire that I'm grateful for where I'm at. But I know that there's got to be more. And so my line is, if I still have a pulse, there's still a plan. Plan's not over yet because I'm still breathing. So if I'm still breathing, there is more that I am to do. And for me, the substratum of that is impacting the lives of people. And so purpose is what gets me up in the morning. Purpose is what gets me through the day. And I literally have it written in my notes because everybody's going to have days where the day hits you in the face.
Right.
Everybody's going to have moments where you're like, is this all worth it? What am I doing? And all of that. And in those moments, it's literally written in my notes that I am here to reach as many people as I can, as fast as I can, while I can. And then I added this line: the light's always green unless he gives me a red one.
Ooh,
go.
I love that. Yeah.
Just go. Just go. Like most people, wouldn't you agree? A lot of people live with one foot on the pedal, one foot on the brake. They're putting out a lot of energy, but they're going nowhere because they're their own stop.
Right. Wow. I love that. Very well said. Well, you mentioned purpose, and you know what your purpose is. Purpose gets you out of bed. Purpose gets you moving. Purpose. What is that? If you were to be more specific, what is your purpose, and how did you kind of find that? I guess.
Yeah. It really is for me. I'll go back to that story. I found it really, really on just picking up the clues. Like, because I had this affinity towards business and spirituality.
Yeah.
Started my first business when I was 12. Got into ministry when I was 12 too. I started as a drummer.
Yeah, I saw
Um,
that. Yeah. That's awesome.
yeah. You want to know why I got into drums? I tried trombone, didn't like it. Sax, didn't like it. Trumpet,
Yeah.
didn't like it. A friend of mine, he and I were very competitive. And so he got a drum set. He was the drummer. Well, I wasn't, but he and I were competitive. So when he got his drum set, I said, well, he got a drum set. I want a drum set too. So we go
Yeah.
into the music store, and so my stepfather says, "Now, you didn't play these other ones. Are you sure you're going to do this?" I said, "I know I'm going to do this. Give me this drum set." And so I'm looking at it. I don't know the first thing about playing drums, so I just paid attention. So I would watch the drummer at church. He's a left-handed guy. He was a left-handed guy. And so, most right-handed drummers, you play with your hands crossed. You got your hi-hat, snare,
Yeah.
but he was left-handed. I didn't know that. So I studied him. And as a right-handed person, I learned how to play left-handed because I
Oh,
just mimicked him. And so
yeah.
his name was Stan, and Stan used to move his shoulder like that when he was when he was playing. And long story short, for me, it was really just picking up on those context clues. Got into ministry through music. Started that first business at 12. In fact, there's a bank called Young Americans Bank, and it had a special charter from the state of Colorado where they were able to offer financial products to youth and young people. And so I got a
Okay.
business loan, my first business loan. I created the program for the bank at the
Wow.
age of 12. There's still a picture of me from when I was 12 years old. That's on the second level of this bank. It's called Ameritown. So every young entrepreneur that's going to Ameritown to study business, to study how to
Uh,
build a business, study different careers and trades, they have to walk past the 12-year-old me holding up my business plan. To this day, I told the vice president of the bank, I
wow.
said, y'all need some new marketing because that's been
Yeah.
a that's been a little while ago. But they said you were the first. And they said,
That's
since you were the
amazing.
first, we want them to see you in that way. I fast forward to say, as I paid attention to that, it continued, here's the word again, continued to evolve
Right.
from a business standpoint. By the time I was 21, I built Denver's largest African American owned mortgage company. To this, I don't know if anyone surpassed it since then. We haven't asked, we didn't look,
Right.
but
Yeah.
and then simultaneously in ministry. So these things continue to evolve. So I go from music into leadership and organizational management and preaching and a pastor and the Colorado Gospel Music Hall of Fame. These things just kept evolving. But the commitment for me was that I still got a pulse. There's still a plan. Let's reach as many people as I can. Even when I ran the mortgage company, I didn't run it just for the purpose of profit. I mean, obviously it needed to be profitable, but that's
Sure.
not what I did it for. I did it because I wanted to create wealth for those who often thought that they could only take different paths. I wanted to show here is another path where you can create wealth while helping people to achieve for many their biggest purchase and their biggest, financial investment in their lifetime. So to me, a sense of purpose has to drive what I do. Money alone is not enough.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. I heard it once said that the two most important days of your life are the day you were born, the day you found out why, right?
Yep. Yep.
And like you said, you kind of knew at the moment you came out of the womb, you had the Bible and the business sense already.
Yeah. But
Right.
you know what? If I'm honest, I have to cut you off, but I think
Yeah.
many times we muddy the water so it seems deep.
Mm,
I think if most people look over your life, the clues have always been there.
yeah.
It just seems like this deep thing that I think for many people, we just mud the water gets muddy and it becomes so confusing. Should I do this? Should I do that? And I just think when I step back and look at it very objectively and subjectively, for
Right.
me, it's just the clues have always been there. Like this has been very clear. And most times when I'm coaching people, whether they're an executive or they're a student, no matter where they're at in life, business owner, whatever, I noticed that, well, let's just find the clues. And sometimes this is why things like what you do is so important because
Yeah.
you just need somebody to say, here's clue one, here's clue
Yeah.
two, here are the
Right.
crumbs. Let's connect this together because it's not
Yeah.
as hard as it seems. We
Yeah.
just muddy the water so it seems deep.
Boy, I couldn't agree more. I think we as human beings try to overcomplicate everything
Yes.
when in
Yes.
reality the answer is really simple, right? Yeah, I'm guilty of it as
Yeah.
well. Um, I want to share a little not necessarily a parable, but like a story, and it's really short, but I want to get your thoughts on this.
Yes, would love to hear.
So there's this Buddhist saint that is known for his wisdom, and this learned man who is known for his genius walked up to him and said to the Buddhist saint, "What's the most important thing in Buddhism?" And the Buddhist saint replied back, "The most important thing in Buddhism is to stop doing evil and learn to do good." And then the learned man replies back and says, "I didn't ask you to tell me what every child of 3 knows. I want to know what's the most important, the most profound, the most subtle thing in Buddhism." And then the Buddhist saint replies back, "The most important, the most profound, the most subtle thing in Buddhism is to stop doing evil and learn to do good." And then he goes on to tell him, "It's true that every child of 3 knows this, but gray-haired old men and women fail to put it into practice."
So good. So
right?
good. So good.
And I just think we do this. I'm guilty of it too, that the answer's there. Like you said, the clues are all there. And that's why I think we need coaching sometimes, right? Because they can point it out. Like you even say, I think it was on your website, you said, even Michael Jordan had a coach, right?
Yep.
Like the greatest of all time in basketball needed a coach. So, and I know that's something you do as well. So you help people see those clues.
Oh yeah. And back to your point, and I love that. We call it parable. That's a good story. That's a good story. I like that. I love
Thank you.
that. As I think that's exactly what it is. And you need someone often to help you see that, to help show you that. I look at it this way. Because there's a lot of people who, I don't need a coach. I don't need this. I don't need that. I don't need that. And I say it like this. Well, some of the greatest hairdressers don't have the best hair.
Right.
Some of the greatest mechanics cars are broke down in the back.
Right.
Right. Some of the greatest doctors look like they should be taking their own advice.
Right.
And so, the point is it's not about, because it is about you needing a third perspective, somebody that can step back, look at it, and help you see what you're not seeing that's right in front of you. And to your parable, it's the same thing. What's it? It's got to be deep. It's got to be some complicated, complex, multi-layered tapestry of wisdom that's going to change my life. No, just do the thing you were with, do the 3-year-old thing.
Right.
And that's the truth. And I have been guilty in my life, and this is why it's easy for me to talk about it, of always overcomplicating what was very simple, what was right in front of me. And sometimes people, I'm just praying about it. I'm praying about, like, there's certain things that don't require prayer. It's like literally in front of you. Like, just turn the light. Here it is. Boom. Just turn the light on. Like, it's right there. And it's been in front of you the whole time. And I think that's one of those beliefs that we can all change, which is all of the answers I need are already around me, waiting on my awareness.
Yeah. I think that's where God laughs at us when he's like, "Hey, I know you're praying for this, but man, it's right there, and I've shown you a million times," right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I think about like a restaurant. The server may bring you something and it's sitting at the table, and you're missing what's at the table because you're trying to get the server's attention. And I think that's what a lot of times we do is we're trying to get God's attention. Okay, wait a minute. I'm over here. Wait a minute. I need my entree. Wait a minute. I need my straw. I need my fork. I need all these things. It's at the table. The table's already been set. And I go back to this line. It was such a powerful line when I heard it that, first few times I say something, I'll give the person credit. And then after that, this is like an old saying though.
Yeah.
But we muddy the water so it seems deep. And when the water seems deep, sometimes the thought is, let me just stay out of that right now. Let me just back off. I'm not ready to deal with that. I'm not emotionally prepared. I have the bandwidth. The truth is, you've got the bandwidth. The answers are right there in front of you.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. Thanks for sharing that. That's really powerful. Really well said. You obviously you command an audience when you speak, and obviously you bring a lot of people closer to God because of not only because you're passionate, but for your love of God.
Yeah.
If I know this is a big question, but if I could ask you, like, what is it that I guess that you love most about the gospel, if that's the way to say it? I know that's a big question because there's probably many parts, but I'd love to hear what you think on that.
Yeah, great question. To be honest, I could actually sum that up pretty simply. It's the word gospel means good news, and the simplicity of it for me is that the good news is that the bad news is wrong. The good news is that the bad news is wrong.
Good.
And that applies at every level, at every filter. Sometimes we can be dealing with something challenging and it could seem like, oh my goodness, this is unrecoverable. I'm never going to get past this. This is the worst thing that can ever happen to me. The good news is the bad news is wrong. Oh, I've made too many mistakes. My past is going to be in my face forever. I'm unqualified. The good news is the bad news is wrong. I messed up. What about my family? What
Right.
about the good news is the bad news is wrong. To me,
Yeah.
that is so powerful because I'll be honest, and maybe there's some others that are out there watching or listening that can relate to this. I sometimes used to catastrophize, and I
Right.
mean, I
Right.
turned something small into, oh goodness, there was this old TV show. I'm sure you probably remember Sanford and Son. And he would
Oh
always
yeah.
say, "This
Yeah.
the big one. This the big one. This the big one." And I would do that. I
Yeah.
would turn. I would say, "Oh my goodness, oh my goodness, this is it. This is it. I don't know what I'm going to do." And I just calm down.
Yeah.
The good news is the bad news is wrong.
Mm.
And when you really latch on to that, when you talk about this, the gospel, the simplicity of it, if you
Yeah.
boil all of the principles, all of the parables, all of the teaching, boil all of that down and distill it in its simplest form, it's that the good news is the bad news is wrong. Oh,
Yeah.
God will never love
Yeah.
me. I've made too many mistakes.
Yeah.
The good news is the bad news is wrong.
Dang. That's a t-shirt right there. You should.
It is, right? Look, I need to take a note, write that down.
Yeah,
That
write
is.
that down. No,
Yeah.
I love that. And I also heard it once said that the gospel is simply beautiful and it's beautifully simple.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're saying there, how simple that is. The good news is the bad news is wrong. That's so simple, but yet so profound and so big in the scope of what that means. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you can't see it on the other side of my office. I have this quote on my wall I'd like to share with you.
Please.
that I have my clients read out loud. And I work with clients who are coming straight from prison. They've, blown up their lives through addiction. And I have them read this on day one. And it says, the most delightful surprise in life is to suddenly recognize there's nothing wrong with you.
Yes.
And 10 out of 10 times, Bishop, they start crying.
Yeah.
And I'll go, has anyone ever told you that? And they're like, never.
Yeah.
Because basically what you're saying, well, the good news is all this bad news you've been telling yourself is wrong. Right?
Yeah.
I'm going to probably put that on my wall and I'm going to put Bishop Kevin Foreman, man.
Yes, sir. Look, I just typed it down because you're so right. Because you're so right. It is so simple.
Yeah.
And I love what you said because I think, we go through life, we pick up all this baggage. We pick up all of these things, and I want to tell you, in all transparency, because I live life as a student, so I don't live life as an expert. I think the experts, when you live life as an expert, the moment something doesn't go according to what you think, it feels devastating. When you live life as a student, I'm learning. So you know what?
Wow.
Okay, I thought it was that. It's not that. It's something else. Let's move on. Next lesson.
Right. Wow.
So I live life that way. In fact, the word disciple means disciplined student. That's all it means. It's a student. It's just a student. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm not the expert. I'm just a student. So one of the things I looked at even this year, I did a series. And when I was teaching this series, it's called Restore My Soul. And this is based off a Bible verse that says he restores my soul, Psalm 23. And in that, you looked at restore my soul. So restore, put it back together again, my soul, mind, thoughts, will, emotions. Question, where's it at? If it has to be restored, put back together, where is it? Well, where did it go?
Yeah.
As we go through life, all of these different pieces of us are pulled off and left in different situations.
Yeah.
And so if you look at it like a piece of tape, as you go through life, as you go through so many things, eventually it doesn't stick.
Yeah.
So even simple ideas don't stick because you've had all of these pieces of your life that have been broken off into all of these different situations.
Right.
And this year, one of the things I learned about myself is that I had really developed since a very young age, I developed a lot of things that were defensive mechanisms to deal with some of the things that, when I came up, because, my life has not always been just smile. I've always smiled. But it's not always been smiling situations.
Right.
I talk about my upbringing. My stepfather was an abuser. He was a womanizer. I watched my mom go through domestic violence and watched her survive and thrive as a result of that. That's why to this day, she's my biggest fan. After every message, she'll shoot me a text message. That word was amazing. That was great. That was fantastic. But I watched that.
Yeah.
And what it did is it created this very parentified version of me. So since I was a kid, I always thought like a father. And so
Okay.
it would drive many of the decisions that I made.
Yeah.
And I bring this up to simply say, as we all go through life, we have these different things that happen, different things that occur. And your quote is so powerful: nothing is wrong. I learned this year something new about myself that had driven a lot of the way that I had thought in
Yeah.
life. And somebody said, well, do you have any regret? I said, absolutely not. I said, nothing was wrong. I said, that was necessary for this part of my journey. As I
Right.
move forward, the good news is that the bad news is wrong.
Yeah. Wow. So well said. I love that. It's such power behind that. I know one of the things you teach as well is that adversity isn't punishment, it's
Yep.
preparation.
Yep.
Tell us about that, because I actually love that. And I think, our listeners will, really benefit from what you're going to say here.
Yeah, even as I just mentioned, coming up as a kid, seeing a lot of what I saw, it really it drove me to be ambitious. It drove me to dig into this spirituality and this
Yeah.
business, the Bible and the briefcase. It literally drove me to do that. I can remember times my stepfather, after he'd have a rampage or whatever, I'd be in the back seat reading my Bible. And he'd say, now listen, this is the petty part of me. He'd say, what you reading? I said, the part about Satan. That's the part I'm reading. It was my little shot at,
Right.
at the time. But my point is that showed me how to survive and how to make it because of the way he operated. We moved around a lot.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to always create a lot of long lasting, long term relationships and friendships
Right.
early. But that wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Because in life, especially when you do what I do, sometimes you're in people's lives for a lifetime. Sometimes you're in their lives for a season. Sometimes you're only in their lives to make a certain impartation into their life. And so it taught me how to keep it moving. I think to some of the business things that happened. I remember after just building that successful business I told you about earlier, that on the weekend, I wake up on a Saturday morning thinking, oh, this is going to be a great Saturday. And I'm just relaxing. I flip on the news and I see that one of the banks that we use is being shut down. And
Oh,
I didn't know that that was going to begin to be the collapse
yeah.
of what would then later be the complete collapse of that industry years later. But I didn't know that. And so I remember looking at that and on Friday feeling, great. On Monday saying, what are we going to do? I just opened this brand new office. I just hired
Yeah.
100 new people for this office,
Yeah.
just took out a whole floor of an office tower. And what are we going to do? Because this industry, not just ours, this industry is in the midst of a free fall. What are we going to do? And it's in that moment that I said, you know what? I've got two options. One, I can stay stuck, or two, I can pivot. And if I pull back on
Yeah.
it, the good news is the bad news is wrong. And we pivoted from that, and I was able to rebuild much better, much stronger, but now with new data, now with new lessons, now with new preparation. So now I
Yeah.
was able to build debt free. And so now I said, lesson learned, don't do these things. And that's what I wrote my first book about making
Yeah.
money moves, the art of getting your
Yeah.
finances in order from the
Right.
lessons I learned. Because again, going back to a principle, if you live as a student, none of it's punishment.
Wow. I
Yeah.
love that. Obviously you had some preparation, unfortunately, watching what your mom had to go
Mm.
through. You don't have to go into detail here, but, let's talk about your mom. Let's give a little shout out to
Yeah.
her for a minute. Like,
Yeah.
I think a lot of times these women behind the scenes, the moms, don't
Yep.
get enough credit.
Agree.
Not to say that you're not giving her, but let's give your mom a little credit. What are
Yeah.
some of the greatest lessons you've learned from this woman in your life?
Oh, let me tell you, and I make it a point to do that too, because I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I am who I am. I often tell people, say, tell me about your mom, tell me about your similar question you asked. And I'll say her greatest gift to me was that she got out of my way. And
Mm.
when I say that, sometimes people will hear that and be like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And then
Right.
I'll do what I'm about to do, which is explain it, which is she knew I was different. And actually, it's this year that I
Mm.
found this out from her. There's a story in the Bible about a woman named Hannah. Couldn't have a child. She prays, she cries out, and God grants her petition. She has a child, but there's a caveat. She says to God, if you give me a child, I will give him back to you, and I'll dedicate him back to you. So literally, as she has this child, she takes him and basically puts him in care of one of the men of God. Eli was his name. Her son's name was Samuel. And so I found out this year, I was preaching about it. And she said, when you started preaching about that, it reminded me that's the same thing I did with you. Apparently
Wow.
something was happening in her pregnancy with me
Yeah.
where it looked like I might not get here.
Mm.
She prayed that prayer, which I didn't know until this year. And she prays that prayer, and then the rest moves forward. So I've learned, if I was to distill it down, these three things. One,
Yeah.
I've learned how to keep it moving. I
Right.
have learned that enemies can't hit moving targets.
Right.
So if you keep it moving, if you don't get stuck, don't stay stuck. I watched her keep it moving. I watched her get up after, my stepfather was on, a cocktail of different substances. And so I saw substance abuse up front. I
Yeah.
saw incarceration up front. I saw these things up front.
Yeah.
And so I saw that. And I remember years later, before he passed away, I said to him, you are so smart, you're dumb. And I said that to him, and we both laughed because we knew I wasn't saying it to demean him or beat him
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
I was saying it to say you had so much untapped potential. My lesson from you is to make sure that I pour out all of my potential, to make sure that I maximize that. But to
Yeah.
my mom, one, keep it moving. Number
Yeah.
two, recognizing that things are happening for you, not to you.
Mm. Love that.
Happening for you, not to you. And the final thing that I'd say, if I was to distill it all down, the power of love.
Mm.
I am the loving person that I am. And this is what so many people say from all backgrounds. People, no matter what their background is, they
Yeah.
say, Bishop Foreman, when you talk, I don't feel judged. I don't feel condemned. I don't feel beat down. I don't feel less
Yeah.
than. In fact, I feel like I can finally do something because the good
Yeah.
news is the bad news is wrong. And that comes from my mom. As a
Wow.
kid, we would go around the house. Good night, love you. Good night, love you. Good night, love you. Good night,
Yeah.
love you. Good night, love you.
Yeah.
To this day, when we speak, that is how we end every phone call
Wow.
or every text message. And she showed me the power of love, which was always amazing to me because I would see how she would love people who you'd often think like, why are you even like, what, like this is the truest model of biblical love I've ever seen is that woman right there, my mother.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. And I get that from you too.
Yeah.
The love, I feel the love.
Yeah.
I feel connected to you instantly the moment we started this conversation, and I can see why people gravitate you so well. And again, shout out to your mom for teaching
Yeah.
you these amazing things, and getting out of your way and let you
Yeah.
go be you.
Yeah. That's
That
exactly what she did.
that's
I,
beautiful.
yeah. I was the kid. I just throw this. I was the kid. I had my ways. And so I often tell parents, whether single parent or single mom, single dad, or, family, what have you, that whenever you see a kid who you think is a little rebellious or a little extra, that's a leader in them.
Right.
And the question becomes not how do we stop them, but how do we get out of their way to let that leader develop?
Right.
And that's what my mom, when I say that, that's what her gift to me was, is she let that leader in me develop. I remember I would just do stuff and, she, she would just, it's years ago. So I would sign my own permission slips and be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be in Alaska next week. Alaska? What are you talking about? Yeah, well, we got to go do this trip and da 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 da.
Yeah.
When I was 16, because I started my business at
Right.
12. When I was 16, I was like, okay, the car deal's done. I've already negotiated it. All I need is your, social security number and da 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 da, whatever. I said the appointment's set for Saturday at 2. We're gonna go pick up the car. And she's like, wait a minute. I said, I've already got the insurance. It's like I would do everything,
Right.
and just and she was very firm.
Yeah.
She was very clear on her expectations, but at the same time, she allowed me to do the things that I would do. And I would say, oh, I'm going to do this for the business. Okay, great. Well, just she'd give me her parameters. And she was a loving mom. Now, don't get it
Wow.
twisted. She was like every
Yeah.
mom. I remember
Sure.
one night I caught myself not calling her. And it was a Wednesday after church, and I was maybe 16, 17, something like that. It was Wednesday after church, and I didn't call her. My phone died. My phone died. And when my phone died, I didn't try to call her from another phone or what have you to just update her on what was going on. She found a restaurant I was at with a group of friends. It was an IHOP. She calls the IHOP. The manager comes on the phone at the IHOP
Serious.
and says, da, 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 da. I was like, that's me. I pick up the phone, I'm like, who's calling me at IHOP?
Right.
And let's just say we never had that problem again.
That's hilarious. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, again, I admire, someone like your mom who went through some really difficult times,
Yeah.
but still held true to those principles and taught
Yeah.
them to you.
Yeah.
And obviously you guys have a great relationship. So, congratulations on that. How
Thank you.
blessed you both are. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
love that.
That's definitely
Well,
true.
I want to read off to our listeners right now some of these notable recognitions that you've received, and I just think it's fascinating. Um, you're inducted into the Colorado Gospel Music Hall of Fame. You're
Yeah.
named one of Colorado's most influential African Americans by the Denver Urban Spectrum.
Yeah.
On October 16th in 2009, you were declared as Bishop Kevin Foreman. It was declared Bishop Kevin Foreman Day in the city of Denver. I mean, that's
Yeah.
amazing. And then in 2016, it was Bishop Foreman Day in the city of Aurora.
Right.
You were appointed to the executive board of the Greater Metro Denver Ministerial Alliance. In 2020, named Colorado's Pastor of the Year by the Colorado Gospel Music Awards. And I know there's more.
Yeah.
First of all, congratulations.
Thank
Second of
you.
all, how do you stay humble with all of these accolades coming your way? Because again, you are a powerhouse and people feel that and they gravitate towards you.
It's real simple. I don't read my own press. I just don't. I don't.
That's good.
To be honest with you, a friend of mine had to tell me this year. He said, Bishop, you have the receipts. He said, but you don't talk about it. He said, there's a lot of people out here who
Yeah.
don't have the receipts and they just talk stuff. And I
Yeah.
said, that's because early on, that story I told you, again, living life as a student, early on, I remember in building such a successful business, I'm fresh out of high school, not too long. And, I was in doing some of my undergrad at the time, doing well in business. You can really start to, oh, listen, I'm on top of the world type of a thing. And you
Yeah.
can really start to believe your own hype and your own press. And I remembered doing that. And I remembered some of the actions that came with arrogance. And those actions that came with arrogance produced some of the things that I went through, after that taught me, do not believe your own hype.
Yeah.
Things can change just like that. The same people who celebrate you on Sunday can say crucify you by Wednesday. Things can change quick, literally.
Right. Yeah.
And so to me, I just don't. I always live by the belief that what I've done is amazing, but what I still have left to do will be even greater. And so celebrate it, clap for it, but just keep it
Yeah.
moving. And I'll be honest, that's a double-edged sword because I'm
Yeah.
learning to do
Sure.
more to celebrate and to
Yeah.
do more to recognize, a
Yeah.
lot of that.
Sure.
Sometimes when people are doing like what you just did, I was like, oh, that's right, that did happen. And I'm looking at all the stuff in my office and, oh,
Yeah.
that's right, oh, I forgot about that. But, you don't necessarily recognize the impact of it all
Yeah.
and the body of work and impacting lives. Because the things I get most excited about would be this thing we call Harvest at a Glance, like how we've given away
Mm.
almost 30,000 toys during Christmas time and how
Wow.
we've given away, over 250,000 articles of clothing and almost 200,000 pounds of food. At one point, we ran Denver's largest private food bank in partnership with Food Bank of the Rockies there. So I get excited about those types of things, the thousands of families we adopted, the almost $1 million
Yeah.
given away to missions, domestic and abroad. Those are the things that I normally get excited about. And I'm like, look at what we did. Look at how we, And
Yeah.
so I just don't believe my own hype, and I don't read my own press. I just recognize that again, it's a privilege to be able to use my life to change the lives of other people, and
Yeah.
God's been very good to me. I make no apologies for that. He's been very good, but I just keep it moving.
Yeah. You remind me of this quote that I learned from one of my clients, and he was quoting someone else, but it goes like this. I tried to find myself I could not see. I tried to find my God eluded me. I tried to find my brother, I found all three. Right? And that's what I'm hearing from you. I mean, the stuff you're finding all of that because you're giving back like you guys are not only just in your community, but worldwide. And how could you not feel good about that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that,
You know?
just the feeling, I remember when I lost now it's about 125 pounds, and
Mm,
did it all natural and just went through this whole transformation. And I remember I had all these clothes that I now couldn't fit, and shoes too. I was shocked at how much fat our feet had. I just said, wow, like this is like an extra 2 inches of fat in here. Like this is crazy.
yeah, right.
And so I had all these clothes. And so I was, again, the business side was thinking,
Yeah.
well, let's put this stuff on consignment. This is good suits, good stuff. I take good care of these things. Let's put it on consignment. Let's at least get something for it. And I remember I was driving down the street. For those that are familiar with the Denver area, it's Colorado Boulevard. I was driving down the street, and literally I heard God speak and say, "Give it all away." And I
Mm,
was like, "Give it all away." I said, this is, at that point, I don't know. I was 30 something. I was like, I've been
yeah,
building this up for, a good minute. This is a lot of years worth of clothes and shoes. And this is nice stuff. This is
yeah,
nice. These are nice things that I've taken great care of.
yeah.
And I said, like, just give it all away. Give it all away. So give it all away, and that'll never be your issue. And so we did that. It was around Thanksgiving. We did something called a Thanksgiving Throwdown. We bust in men who were in transition, many of them right out of incarceration, in between, just going through life. Some were unhoused at the time, just going through life. We bust them in, fed them, took good care of them. And I had the privilege, I can remember this like it was yesterday, of for many of those men putting their first suit on them. And you had men that were in their 50s, 60s, 70s, gray haired, said, they began to cry, "I've never had a suit on. I've never had a
Wow.
tie." And so I
Wow.
would sit there with them and show them how to tie their tie, put a suit on.
Right.
Men of all ages left with bags of clothing and suits and ties and all of that. And I remember going home after that, and I had one outfit because I gave everything away.
Yeah.
And I lost all this weight. So I had
Yeah.
one outfit. I had a pair of jeans. I had a shirt and I had some shoes. And I think I had one other suit at that point because I had to start over. And something amazing happened. Brands every single week, and others would just send me clothing. And to this day, I did that in 2013. So this 12 plus years later, to this day, every single week, at least once or twice a week, a brand, people I've never met, never spoken to, don't even have any brand endorsement deals necessarily with them. I do have some of those,
Right.
but don't even have them with them.
Right.
Will send me clothing, yeah. So somebody was looking at my closet today. They said, "Look at all what you got." I said, "Majority of this is gifts." I said, "In fact, I can tell you, I haven't bought clothes for myself in years." I said, "To be honest, I don't even know. I don't even want to. Don't show me a mall. Don't show me a store. I don't even want to do it." I said, "The majority of this is gifts because when I released that seed created
Yeah.
perpetual increase." And so to me, it's
Wow.
we work to make. I make my living from my giving. I don't work to make a
Ooh,
living. I make my living from my giving.
beautifully said, man. That gave me chills.
Yeah,
Seriously, man.
yeah,
That is amazing.
yeah,
A couple more things. I want to ask you, like, what do you do on the days that you're struggling? We all go through our struggles,
yep,
and I know you do too.
yep.
What do you do? What is like your go-to, like when you're really in that maybe dark spot and don't feel like doing what you normally should be doing?
Yeah, such a good point. And you're right about it. Listen, I just, again, living life like a student. Yesterday was one of those days. It just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, what's going on? And
Yeah.
so I literally strive to not just teach the things that I teach, but to live the things that I teach. Because if they
Right.
work, they should work for me too.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, literally, in that moment, I said, okay, I'm just not having an amazingly productive day. So, what I learned for me is really pragmatic. I got to get out and I got to go exercise. Exercise became therapeutic for me.
Yeah.
I used to hate going to the gym. That's a relatively new thing now. Every time people see me, they say, "Are you a coach? You're a trainer? Whatever, what have you?" I'm dressed to go to the gym now,
Yeah.
but I generally am that way. And used to always be in suits and ties, and now I'm generally always in gym wear. And
Yeah.
I got to get my body moving. It's the movement that takes
Yeah.
me out of. I notice one of the times when we're having low days, it's because something is making us feel stuck or stagnant.
Yeah.
So sometimes just seeing yourself move, seeing yourself do something physically, it sends the message to you, your spirit and your soul, subconscious mind, then your conscious mind, thoughts, will, emotions. It sends the message, move, move. And so literally, That's what I began to do. Now, I say that with, of course, I prayed. To me, like, how do you run everything else? And you got the King of Kings, the Lord who is the creator of everything. Like, why would you
Yeah.
not go there first?
Yeah.
And so, of course, I do that.
Sure.
But I believe that there's a real practical thing for me. If I get out, I get moving. Conversations are very therapeutic for me.
Yeah.
I will hop on the phone and have a call I believe in keeping, if you keep your circle tight, you keep your circle right, I like to say. So iron sharpens iron. I have to have iron people around me
Yeah.
because I come in hot and I need iron.
Right.
Aluminum is not going to do anything but just get mad with me. I'll cut right through them. They'll just be like, oh, this guy's intense.
Yeah.
He's a lot. But I keep iron men around me that I'm able to have iron men conversations and will address those conversations and then keep it moving. And so I normally don't like to keep my rule is this: don't stay in a valley longer than 60 minutes.
Mm, I love that.
Don't even do it. The moment you feel low, like, okay, what do we need to do to get out of this?
Yeah.
And then get out of this.
And get
Because I
out.
think a lot of what turns into, depressive moments and depression and deep anxiety and a lot of those low places people get stuck in, I think often what happens is just because you stayed there too long.
Yeah.
And that's that's an oversimplification, because I know there's differences and there's levels and there's nuances and that's a much deeper issue. It's not to over generalize it or oversimplify it. But I know for me, if I don't if I don't make action quickly, that thing, and then before you know it, a day has turned into several
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
Several days has turned into a week. A week has turned into a month. A month has turned into a quarter. And before you know it, you look back over your year and you're like, what did I do
Yeah.
besides exist? And I just don't believe that we were sent to the earth to just exist. I think we were sent to the earth to live. There's a
Well,
difference.
well, I love that, Bishop, because we're talking about simplicity. I love that you just said, I just make it a goal not to be there. I'm going to take care of this in the next 60 minutes. What do I need to
Correct.
do to get out of this valley?
Yep.
How simple that is just to even think of it that way. Because I find myself when I'm having a bad day, it seems like I don't go to that thought. I'm just like, oh, I'm just going to have a bad day. Let me just ride it out, instead of actually doing something and being proactive. So I love
Yeah.
that. And I also love the movement piece. I'm big into working out as well. I call it my
Love
morning
that.
medication. I'm going to go get
Yeah.
my meds this morning and go get a workout in, kind of thing. So
Yeah,
I love it.
that's really
Very
good. Yeah,
well
yeah. And
said.
you know what the exercise did for me too is it gave me a moment to take all of that energy and do something constructive with it.
Right.
Before, what I would do is I would eat. So I was an emotional eater, and I didn't know this until years later. So I would eat. I'd eat when I'm happy, eat when I'm sad, eat when I'm glad, eat with good news, eat with bad news, just eat. And then consequently, you do that, you look up, and you're saying, "Whoa, I was a 38 waist." 44 jacket, and now I'm like a 28 waist, and depending on the jacket cut,
Yeah.
what 30, 36, 38, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
All of this weight training has got it so that you know what, I just did what I did years ago. I did another round of it. I cleared out all of my suits again, and I've literally probably got maybe 3 or 4 jackets that are left. I cleared out a whole closet, and just blessed a bunch of people.
Wow.
And
Awesome.
so I'll see that thing happen again. But I love that morning meds. I'm taking that from you. I'm
Yeah,
telling
you
you.
can.
You
Well,
can take my quote. I'm taking your quote.
I've been writing a lot of your quotes down. I'm taking all of them.
I love it. I love it. They are yours.
If there's someone listening to you right now, Bishop, that is in a dark place and they are stuck and they are, having thoughts of not even wanting to be here anymore. You've already shared some great advice, but what would you tell that one person right now who's tuning in, listening to you right now?
I would say one, I know what it is to be there. So when I speak, I'm not speaking just from principle. I'm speaking from being in that place. And here's what I know, that often, even if you're having thoughts of not being here, it is not so much that you don't want to be here. It's just that you don't want the pain you're currently feeling while you are here.
Yeah.
And so the question becomes, what's the pain? And address the pain. What is it?
Yeah.
Say it, verbalize it, talk
Yeah.
about it, get it out. Because sometimes the only reason those types of thoughts are pervasive and they prevail is because we hide from them. And what I've learned is the fact that you can think about it and even be honest about it. That means you're a fighter.
Yeah.
And if you're a fighter, that's what we do. We fight. So now we got to engage these thoughts. We got to see where's the pain that's really being caused. And you really got two choices. Either you can play into it and be played by it,
Mm.
or the second choice is you can pivot. And what I would say to somebody listening right now is you've got to pivot. In fact, watching this is the good news. It's that the
Yeah.
bad news is wrong.
It's wrong.
And
Yeah.
there's no Hebrew word for coincidence. And I think that's interesting because I don't
Mm.
really believe they exist.
Mm.
I believe that everything is divine providence. I believe
Wow.
our steps have been ordered. And I think anybody that's feeling that right now, your steps have been ordered to watch this
Mm.
and to see this and to be a part of this conversation. And this is your pivot moment to take that and say, I'm going to take this pain and turn it into something
Yeah.
purposeful.
Right.
Every time I've ever felt that or been there or been close to that place, I recognize that I must be on the verge of something huge. I
Yeah.
must be on the verge of something intense because I believe this, that battles get strongest right before breakthroughs.
Yeah.
Battles are most intense right before
Love
breakthroughs. And
that.
that's
Yeah.
universal across the board. I don't care. Black, white, tall, short, everybody included, nobody excluded. That's the
Yeah.
principle. And so I would say to that person, one, allow yourself to experience it, to feel it, and to address it. But then two, don't let it play you. Pivot from it,
Yeah.
and recognize that you've still got a pulse. So
Yeah.
there's still a plan. And
Yeah.
the reality is if it could have taken you out, it would have. It can't. It
Yeah.
can't.
Right.
And I say to every person watching that, I say it like this: don't judge your future by your past. What's ahead is greater than what's been.
Wow. Well said. Amen to that. Ooh,
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
powerful.
yeah,
If there's, if those tuning in, they want to learn more about you and they want to learn more about, Harvest Worship
yeah.
and just your coaching and your singing and your books and all that stuff, what's the best way for someone to learn more about you and even worship with you?
Yes, great question. So, best way is so on socials, it's at Bishop Foreman, Foreman. That's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, full disclaimer. There's like 35 uh, uh, pages of fake pages on TikTok. So always look for the blue check.
The blue, gotta have the blue.
All
Yeah.
of mine are verified. If you Google me on TikTok, there's like 35 individual like pages of profiles. So it's probably like 400 pages
Yeah.
profiles that are fake. But at social on all the socials, and I'd love if you're watching, please shoot me a message. I try to be responsive to messages. I get several hundred a day, but I try to be as responsive as I can, especially on IG or LinkedIn. Let me know that something was spoken that spoke life into you. I would love to know that. And
Nice.
then the website, bishopforeman.com. On the website, you can get our app. There's so many resources that are add value to your life there. There's messages, there's music. Listen, so this is a big year. We've moved our headquarters from Denver to Atlanta. And
Oh,
so
okay.
we're actually starting a new location here in the Atlanta area,
Wow.
and which we're super excited about, and that'll launch here real shortly. But we've been doing the pre-launch services, which has been amazing. But because we're a hybrid church, people can connect anywhere across America, around the world. So it doesn't matter where you're at, people can connect. And I can tell them this is that you're gonna get information that is going to be revelation for you,
Yeah.
how it applies to your life. That's to me, that's the whole name of the game. Like what can I do so that people can create an impact in your life? Because as I've said now, and I'm a preacher, so I got to close it.
Sure.
The good news is the bad news is wrong. And you'll see that in everything that we do, like every message, every video on social media, every podcast, the underlying principle is that right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I love it. I could talk to you all day. I'm telling you,
Yes, sir.
I really could. This has been so fun for me. And
Likewise.
I love your passion. I love your heart. Your energy is amazing. It's contagious. I feel like I could go, outside and run around the block several
That's what
times.
I'm talking about.
Yeah, let's
Let's go. I'm
go.
dressed for it.
I know you are, and so am I. Let's go. But yeah, thank you for taking the time today. I know
Pleasure.
you're a busy man and you got a
Thank
lot
you.
going on. So for you to be willing to be on my show means the world to me. And
Thank you.
I'm just grateful for this opportunity. I'm a better person now, uh, where I am now, where I was an hour ago before we started
Wow.
this conversation. So thank you.
Likewise. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate you. And big salute to you for doing what you do, because you're adding tremendous value to the lives of people. And I salute you for what you do. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much. And hold tight before we wrap it up. But I want to just let everyone know, thanks for tuning in. Thanks to my sponsors for believing in me. It means the world. I couldn't do it without you. And again, thank you guys. If you have a loved one who's struggling, if you have anyone in your family that's just in a bad spot, send them a link to this episode and have them listen to Bishop Foreman. This will change their lives. It'll inspire them. They'll feel his love and passion and energy, and it'll be contagious, and it'll get them out of that valley. Let's don't spend a long time in that valley. Let's make the decision to get out. And again, like you said, the good news is the bad news is wrong. I love you guys. And again, Bishop Foreman, you're the best. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Much love, everybody.